Hey folks, I'm Mike. Do you hate ads? I hate ads. You know what I like? Patreon.com/Inkdependence. It keeps this blog ad-free. Hey folks, today we have a pair of pens coming to us from Montegrappa by way, one of them anyway, by way of Kenro Industries, which is the U.S. distributor of Montegrappa and Aurora, Omos, a bunch of watch brands, that kind of stuff. This is a sort of fancy cardboard outer box. Inside that box is this box, which is much fancier. It's kind of an odd shape. It's got this little sort of like curve to the box, which is really nice. It is a magnetic enclosure. It's got sort of a carbon fiber-esque print on it. This is just a print. It is a different. It's like feels like it's laid on like a sticker. It's a sticker on top of the box, but it does feel nice and it looks nice. It's a good presentation. The box opens like this. It's got a magnet down here, which is pretty serious. It's actually kind of hard to open. You have a nice little Montegrappa, another little carbon fiber carrying that in here, leatherette. Then you got the pen rest. You've got the instruction booklet in several languages. You've got a couple of cartridges. You've got the plastic bag that the pen itself will come in. I don't have it in this bag. I have it out here ready to be looked at. This, unfortunately, my only gripe about the box is one, that it looks kind of expensive and they could have dropped the price of the pen to get a less cool box. I don't know if anybody keeps these boxes on their desk or whatever. It does happen to fit perfectly in like the little slot in my roll top desk here, but most people don't have one of those, so I don't know how useful it is. Mine has a little bit of crack in it. It's probably why this ended up being sent out as a review sample. So anyway, I bet yours won't have a little crack in the plastic. Close that guy up. Stow it. Here are the pens. Let's start with this one first. This is the one that actually came in that fancy box. This is the Montegrappa Fortuna Merry Skulls in silver. It's actually brushed steel. It is not silver, but it is silver colored. If you look closely at the skull on here, you'll see that it is made up of lots of other tiny little skulls. And that every one of those little skulls is happy, and so is the big skull. On the body, it's entirely engraved with these tiny little skulls. The body is very smooth to the touch. You can feel a roughness where the engravings are, which is kind of everywhere, but it's not irritating at all. On the cap, it's a little bit sharp up in this area, and in fact, it did sort of start to fray one of my knot cases a little bit that I had this in. So, be aware this is actually a little bit sharp when you if you're going to put it in a case. I'd put it in a leather case or in something that's not going to be doesn't have nylon or whatever that might get frayed. On top, you have this little jewel that says 1912. On bottom, you have just sort of a rounded, flat bottom, which is a nice look. Around the middle, you have an engraving of Montegrappa, and that is all. That's all the branding that's on here, aside from a zillion skulls. Now, Montegrappa does make this in a black that's called the Montegrappa Fortuna Skulls. It's got an unhappy-looking Jolly Roger guy up here. Just not even Jolly Roger, doesn't have the bones, but just kind of like a half skull. It looks kind of mean. I don't care for that one very much. Skulls aren't really my jam. So when Carrie said, hey, would you like to review something? I said, yeah, sure. Send me whatever you'd like me to review, and I'll take a look at it. I opened it up and saw this, and I was like, oh, man, skull pen. I got to tell you, though, I have gotten a lot of favorable response from this pen. Even Audrey likes it, and I was expecting her to be like, ugh, skulls, gross. Who wants that? Because I don't do skulls either. But lots of my friends have really dug this particular pen. Every time I bring it out, man, this one really gets comments. In fact, I took it to board game days over at my buddy Chris's place. He is designing a sort of nautical horror game, and so we were using this to track changes and that kind of stuff because he's just designing it. And it was cool having this sweet skull pen for a nautical horror game. Anyway, so this is the first one. This is the Silver Skulls Fortuna. The Fortuna line is really big, and it has a lot of different sort of pens in it, lots of different finishes, materials, etc. This one was not sent out by Kenro. I'm not sending it back because we bought this one a while ago. I think we bought it in Philly. Well, I got it for Audrey in Philly because she had been talking about really wanting one of these. When I reviewed the Mule, I don't know, like a year ago or something, I suppose, she liked the Mule because it has a nice shape and it looks good, but it was way too heavy and it smelled like pennies, and she didn't dig that. Let me smell this one. Nope, just steel. It doesn't smell like anything at all. So no weird like metal smells off of the steel one. But the copper one smells a lot like pennies. And while I like that just fine, Audrey was not a fan. But she saw this one, which is the Mosaica, which is this, Mosaica Barcelona is actually the name of this finish. This is a cracked turquoise finish, and it is gorgeous. Let me give you a close-up of that right quick. It is a really pretty finish. In fact, every time I see this pen, I'm like struck by, wow, this is really cool looking. My light's a little bit bright here and it's sort of washing it out a bit, but it's a beautiful turquoise color. Anyway, so there you go. It's got all the same exterior finishes as the Silver Skulls does, aside from it having a shiny clip and a shiny waistband as opposed to the brushed steel that you get on the Skull one. Inside, they're a bit different. I take these apart. There we go. I'll get this closer. Here we are. So you'll see that the Silver Skulls version has a brushed steel grip section, while the Mosaica has, a matching. It matches the body. The grip section does, and this one's plastic, whereas this one is brushed steel. The brushed steel on this one is actually very smooth. In fact, it almost feels lacquered. I haven't had a big problem with it being slippery. There have been a couple of times my hands were like, I don't know, extra sweaty, or I've been writing a long time. And it's like, oh, I wish this wasn't as smooth. The one on the Copper Mule, I think, has a bit of a texture to it. It's sort of a brushed silver, I believe, and this is just brushed steel, and it feels like it's been lacquered. I don't know for sure that it was, but it feels like it because it's so smooth. It doesn't really tend to pick up fingerprints much, just because of the shine and as I turn it, you can sort of see like variations in the steel. I haven't actually had a problem with any of this picking up fingerprints because of the brushed steel. It's pretty nice. A lot of shiny pens, you get a lot of fingerprints. This one, of course, has a nice acrylic section, and it feels good in the hand. It doesn't have any problems at all. The steel one is a good bit weightier than the Mosaica, but the Mosaica, I do think, has probably got a brass liner in it. No, it doesn't actually. It's just a nice heavy acrylic, I suppose. Because it's not a lightweight pen. I mean, it's fairly light, but it's not as light as some others you might have picked up that were made of acrylic. A lot of handmade pens and that sort of thing. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's the metal threads that are in there that's giving it the weight. I don't know, but it's got a very pleasant weight. This one's a little bit heavy in the hand, I think. I'm pretty sure Audrey would say that she would get tired of it just because it's so heavy. Also, the threads on these are worth noting. They're a little bit different between the pens. This one has bigger, flatter, square threads. These have slightly less big square threads. But in both cases, the threads do not, they don't hurt. They feel nice, actually. These are nice and flat, and these just sort of blend in with the barrel. It's really kind of crazy, but I like that a lot. The nibs on these are pretty much the same. One is shiny, the other is brushed, just to match the rest of the hardware on the pen, which is a great touch. I know a lot of people, and myself included, are bugged when a pen has hardware that doesn't match. So if you look at like the TWSBI 700s, everything is like shiny steel except for the clip, which is matte for some reason, and that has made people angry ever since that pen came out. And I always see comments about that. Anyway, so let's cap these up real quick. And then, let's go ahead and look at them next to a bunch of other pens. Okay, so here they are next to a whole bunch of other pens. Go ahead and move them all down so they're all touching the bottom. There we go. They're all nice and even. This is in my Franklin Christoph pen case. I really love this big pen box. It's a great box. It's good for displaying pens and showing their length and that kind of stuff too. Some of the black ones fade in a little bit, but they're shiny enough. I think you can probably tell. I've put the mosaics on in different places just so you can see how they stack up against different sizes. Let's go ahead and move this one over here a little bit. There we go. All right, so from left to right, we have the Pelikan M800, which is pretty close. Really, it's just a finial different in length here when it is capped. Next to that, I have a Diplomat Excellence A. Next to that, the venerable Lamy 2000. Next to that, the Franklin Christoph Model 2. Next to that is the Sailor Pro Gear, coming in as our smallest pen here. The Pro Gear is a little bit small. In fact, I wish it was, a quarter inch longer or something. I think it'd be more comfortable. But the Mosaic is definitely a bit longer. Then this is the other Mosaic, and then this is the Platinum 3776. This is the Nice Pure. And the Nice Pure is just about exactly the same length as the Fortunas. You get a little bit extra length from this dome that you don't have on these guys, but otherwise pretty much the same. So if you like the size of the 3776 or you like the size of the Lamy 2000 most of these, the 800 is going to be a little bit bigger. I think this is going to be a pen that'll work for you. As far as uncapped comparisons, let's go ahead and post them just for funsies. You can post the Fortuna line. It's not a big deal. It does make it a bit heavier. Those caps have a fair amount of weight in them. But you can totally do it. You don't have to worry about this being scratched either. There's a nice plastic liner inside that's going to protect your pen. So if you're a person that likes to write posted, you can totally do that. It's comfortable enough, I think. The overall weight of that pen is pretty high, and so adding the cap on the back for some reason doesn't really hurt the balance. Okay, there you go. So there it is next to a bunch of other pens. It is, again, just about exactly the same size as these two, and a little bit longer it ends up than the Platinum because it doesn't post quite as deeply. But it's pretty much the same as the Excellence A and the Lamy 2000. So if you like that size of that Lamy 2000, you're going to like this one. Let's go ahead and uncap them right quick. Alright, so you can see now uncapped lengths. It's a little bit harder because of all the different shiny nibs and that sort of thing, but it is, again, pretty much the exact same size as the Lamy 2000. It is pretty well exactly the same size as an uncapped 800 or an uncapped 3776. Actually, it's a little bit smaller. So there you go. That gives you an idea of dimensions. I'll go ahead and cap these up again. Okay, so for dimensions on these guys, I like to do this. Posted, you get 6.08 inches or 155 millimeters. Unposted, capped, 140 millimeters. Uncapped, 127. So pretty good size difference between the posted and the uncapped versions. Now, one of the cons about these pens is the price is all over the place. I mean, you'll find different prices everywhere, it seems. And they vary between like $200. These are close to 200-ish. These are around, it depends on where you go. I've seen them from 200 to 300-ish. But I think MSRP on these guys, the Fortuna Barcelona, is about 275. For these, the MSRP is 495, which is... That's kind of high. Now, it is a limited edition. There are only 888 made of each one. It says numbered on the Kenro site, but I cannot for the life of me find a number on this pen. So I'm guessing that they're not actually numbered, just you have to know that there's 888 of them out there in the world in each mode. Now, 888 is not a particularly small limited edition, so I wouldn't say you have to run right out and grab one, but maybe if you're really into this pen. Material is made out of brushed steel. The nib is also steel, and the filling system is cartridge and converter. Oh, I didn't open that up. In fact, it's actually got a threaded converter, which is kind of nice. You can't just pull it out. Oh, I'm about out of ink. Look at that. You have to unthread it. So don't ever try to just yank it out. It has a nice threaded converter. It's got a big opening there. This is a very nice converter, actually. I'm not going to lie. I dig that converter. And I like that it's threaded. I like a nice threaded converter. You don't see those on too many pens, but when you find one, it's really kind of a nice touch. You don't ever have to worry about it getting loose or anything like that. All right, so that's as much as I can give you for stats and that sort of thing right here. Let's go ahead and do a writing sample with these two guys. We've got a fine and a medium nib, and then we'll call it a day. All right. Okay, let's start out with the fine nib on this Fortuna. They're all a little bit finer than they ought to be, I think, as a pen that's definitely supposed to be Western size nibs, I believe. These are actually closer to the Japanese sorts of size. But nonetheless, pretty good nibs. A little bit on the feedbacky side. These are the Montegrappa Fortuna. This is actually a Montegrappa red that I'm writing with right here, which is actually a quite kind of a pinky magenta red. We have the Mosaica, and this is Barcelona. And we also have the Montegrappa Fortuna. Merry Skulls. You do see a little bit of a skip here, and that's because I've been waving this around for a couple of takes, I believe, and that's why we ran a little bit dry. You can see that it recovered almost immediately, which is nice. I haven't had any problems writing quickly with these guys. They do just fine. I'd say they're a little bit on the dry side. Anyway, so these have been the Montegrappa Fortuna's Mosaica Barcelona and also Merry Skulls. So if you're into these pens, go find them at your favorite Montegrappa purveyor. I generally get this kind of stuff from like Anderson Pens, but you can find it in many places, and different places will have different styles just depending on what they have in stock and that sort of thing. But always remember, your favorite pen retailer can usually special order a thing for you if they don't have exactly the one you're looking for. I'd like to try one of these in abroad sometimes because really, for me, and actually these look just the same, don't they? The medium and the fine. Let's zoom in a little bit more. These look pretty close to the same line weight. In fact, the medium actually looks a little bit smaller, oddly enough. And I think that's actually because the Montegrappa Red tends to soak in very quickly. It's very fast dry, it seems, and does have a little bit of a bleeding and spreading problem. But in general, in my usage of these two pens, and I've used both of them a fair amount, the fine is actually it's quite fine. It's too fine for me. And the medium is actually a little bit too fine for me as a medium too. I do wish it was a bit bigger. So I'm going to try to go for a broad on one of these. I would say that if you like the sort of Japanese size nibs, you'll be fine ordering whichever size works for you in that style usually. If you're expecting a Western nib on these guys, I mean, they are made in Italy, but they run small. So I don't know, guess a size larger than you otherwise would, is my advice. All right, so that's it. This has been the Montegrappa Fortuna line, a pair of those guys. I am Mike. You can find me at all the usual places on the interwebs. Instagram has me as @Inkdependence. I'm on Twitter as @Madison. I'm on Facebook. You can find me as Inkdependence blog. You can find me of course, at inkdependence.com. And I will see y'all later on. Peace out. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down there. If you really liked this video and found it useful, go to Patreon and click that link and become a patron. Help me support this blog for a little bit longer. That would be awesome. If you want to see some more videos, they're over here on the left-hand side. I'll see y'all later. Peace out.